the NWA back into the spotlight.
I was thinking that it might be a good idea if you and I formed an alliance.
Let's get ready to rumble! Welcome to the greatest wrestling program in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? Stop what you're doing and listen.
It's the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin, Frazier, DKM, and J Cal.
Stop what you're doing and listen. And I'm hearing extra audio because I had the YouTube channel on. Hey guys, welcome to the Alliance Guys podcast, a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance and the United Wrestling Network. And tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about Ring of Honor. We're going to talk about what's going on out there with the Ring of Honor, with everything that's been breaking, all the news that's been happening. First and foremost, I want to say what's up to our viewers that are in the chat. Doty's in the house. Doty's been here for a while, chatting with me since 4 o'clock. I also see that Willie Bowen is here, and Chris Drummond's in the house. Everybody, welcome to the show. Of course, with me are these two very handsome and extraordinarily intelligent, articulate gentlemen. With me is DKM, and of course, the modern day hero, the former NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion, a title he really didn't lose, Kevin Frazier. Welcome to the show, fellas.
What up?
Hey.
What's going on? How's your week been?
How's my week been?
Yeah, how's your week been?
It's been one long continuous Monday.
Wow. Kevin, my man, it was your birthday. Happy birthday. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm 1 year better.
Happy 29.
It's been good. Yeah. Had a good little, I guess you call it, vacation for my birthday. And then I'm actually with DK. It's been kind of one long Monday since I got back.
It kind of feels like that for me as well. So we'll just make the best. Go ahead, Kev.
No, I just said, man.
Oh yeah, it's been a week, man, and you know we're going off of everything that's happening in the world of professional wrestling. Of course, the NWA just celebrated its first episode of EMPOWERRR. Of course, you've got the WWE coming off of their success with Halloween Havoc, and of course, AEW is gearing up for the pay-per-view that they're doing. I don't follow AEW, so I can't really speak to that. But the big news that kind of hit the headlines is, and we have to mention, you can't forget the National Wrestling Alliance during that event that happened this past weekend in Kentucky. And, you know, I've heard zero results from that show, so I'm wondering if everyone that walked in the building had to find NDAs or whatever, the no disclosure agreements or something, because you can't even find the results online. But we do know that Mike Knox came knocking down Trevor Murdoch, and he's a former WWE wrestler, probably had more time with the Aces and Eights in Impact Wrestling than he did in the WWE. Real quick, before we get into what's happening with Ring of Honor, let's talk a little bit about NWA. DKM, Mike Knox, does he move the needle for you?
No, but I mean, it's not as bad as it sounds. It's just I don't really know him or remember him. I saw very little of the Aces and Eight storyline, and I wasn't really following. So, you know, anything that happens on TNA or Impact as it is now, sorry, but I don't keep up with it really. So I don't know who he was in WWE. Assume he had a different name. And
no, he was Mike Knox there too.
That's very weird. But
he wasn't very good. He wasn't in very good shape either.
I see a picture of him with Kane.
He was one of the guys that was developed with the UPW, Ultimate Pro Wrestling. Now, when people say Ultimate Pro Wrestling, the first thing that comes to mind is John Cena, but he also that wrestling promotion, Rick Bassman, was originally credited with discovering Steve Borden and Jim Hellwig, Sting and the Ultimate Warrior. Of course, they brought in. They were able to get a relationship with the WWE in the early parts of 2000 that helped usher in talents from Southern California, not just to the WWE, but to also 01. So it brought in guys like Samoa Joe to 01. It brought Tom Howard to 01. It brought Nathan Jones, Sylvester Turkey, KG Sakota, rest in peace, and of course Horseshoe, Luther Reigns, as well as Mike Knox to the WWE. And there was plans for many, many more. Of course, that never came to fruition. So Mike Knox, I know a little bit about Mike Knox because of his history with UPW, but this is it's not a big needle mover. And if this is supposed to be the first pay-per-view challenge for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, I think I can speak for the three of us that we're a little bit let down. Again, he has zero connection to the NWA because he did a sneak attack. He's the guy that's going to get a shot at Trevor Murdoch. I'm a little disappointed. You guys have anything else you want to add on that?
I mean, I'm just reading a little bit about him at the moment. So I guess he wrestled for the ECWWE.
I think he came in and Kelly was his girlfriend, I believe.
Yeah, Kelly. Yeah, it looks like Kelly was part of this thing.
Guys,
They say he spent most of his time in deep. Said he spent most of his time in Deep South wrestling, so it sounds like he would just make appearances here and there.
Guys, if you hear me snoring, it's because you guys are talking about Mike Knox.
Well, I mean, we have to run with the news and information, Kev. That's what we do here.
Right.
You know,
we do have fans, though. We don't want to hurt our ratings by talking about jabronis on the show. Hey, okay, I'm okay. I'll slow it down.
Maybe that's a good poll question, Jay. Do these people know who Mike Knox is? Do they remember him from anywhere?
We've already got a two Mike Knox is a joke.
Yeah,
pop up already.
And it's kind of hard to dispute that, right? Because again, he hasn't done anything. He hasn't really been anywhere. I mean, I'm right now as we're talking, guys. I'm gonna look him up on Cage Match, and I'll tell you how many titles Mike Knox has held in the sport of professional wrestling. And
well, the thing is, you said he was part of Aces and Eights, and I'm reading that. And so, what time period was that? Who was around during that time period?
Of course.
And so we see why he's there. I mean, he was one of Billy's playmates, and Billy needs to stop that.
What it is he's calling in guys that he knows, trying to look cool to the boys, trying to pop the boys because he's got connections. And again, when you're a legend in your own mind, you do stuff like this.
But is this
completely detached?
Would Knox even pop the boys? I mean,
no. You don't understand. He thinks he is. Thinks he is, but no one is. No one that's collecting a check on a contract's gonna go pop his bubble. So they're just gonna be like, oh yeah, that's awesome. I mean, they're gonna talk bad to Mike Knox and talk bad to Billy Corgan. Not gonna happen. I mean, not unless you're on your way out, because you're gonna be.
Yeah,
Think about Thunder Rosa.
I mean, let's just go through the list here, right? So you've got Terry McDermott saying, I forgot about Mike Knox. Had to do a Google search to jog my memory. Chris Drummond says, Mike Knox is a joke. Willie Bowen says Mike Knox is a joke like Tyrus in the WWE. Wrestling with MMA says, from what I remember of him, it was bad. And but I think Dave Scooby points out that he's a bigger guy, so Billy likes him, bringing names that people know. And that's the thing, too. We do know that Billy has a prototype for what he looks for NWA talent. And that's going to come into discussion later, but he does like the heavyweights. He does like the bigger guys. So, I mean, bringing in somebody like Mike Knox makes sense from a size standpoint. But in terms of in-ring ability, he might be able to have a Haas fight with Trevor Murdoch. It might be decent, but again, I just don't know why this is the first match. I don't know why a pay-per-view match is where you do this. I mean, if you want to do this at Tried and True November or Tried and True December, okay, do it. But use an NWA pay-per-view for that match, which I think is what they're going to do, just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
You know, I think this is a case where, and look, I can't complain about Mike Knox. I mean, I know people are saying he's a joke, and I'll take them at their word, but I've never really seen him. Kevin apparently has, and he's not a fan. And so, but on a personal level, I can't really, say bad things about him because I don't really know anything about him. And so, I think, even when they were posting about this on Twitter, I mean, they were going with the idea that nobody knows who Mike Knox is because they never said, oh, no, Mike Knox attacks Trevor Murdoch. They goes, some guy attacked Trevor Murdoch.
Oh,
and so it's, Mike Knox may be a good person to bring in for a first run at Trevor Murdoch. Like I said, they may be able to have a Haas fight. But then, don't bring him in a way that makes it seem like he should be big, a big surprise or a big challenge or whatever. You bring him in, he has a problem with Murdoch. And you do something to build him as an interesting person or character. Now, maybe you can't do that with him. And that's why you go this route. I don't know. And so, I mean, I'm looking at his history like you were talking about. He's won a handful of titles, none of which are
all regional.
Yeah, I was going to say none of which are impressive. And even in Deep South Wrestling, which was the official NXT, them and Ohio Valley were the official NXTs at the time. I mean, all he ever did was hold the tag team title once with somebody who I don't know who they are.
Willie, our pal Willie Bowen says Knox and Tyrus would make for a good pie eating contest. And
they would.
And Dave Scooby says at least Trevor will have someone to defend the belt against. I hope if this match is what happens at Hard Times, I hope we get a lot of butt kicking. Now, there is someone who's with us tonight. Kevin, I think you might remember this guy. His name is Jaden. He works with Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. Easy for me to say. I'm going to bring Jaden on. So we go to this foursome. Hey, Jaden, You're on with us. What's up, man?
Hey, I heard you guys had a podcast, and somebody made a big splash last week with all his controversial comments, and I thought maybe that somebody could open up his big mouth again and piss some more people off.
Kevin, do you recognize this guy?
Yeah, I may recognize this guy a little bit.
How you doing, modern day hero? How is my favorite junior heavyweight champion of all time?
I'm doing outstanding. How about yourself?
Still busy right now. We're getting ready for our wrestling event. The Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators has an event tomorrow at the Max Fit Sports Center, located 240 Delsey Drive South in beautiful uptown Glassboro, New Jersey. T-plug. And I figure I would, Saturday.
You said tomorrow.
Tomorrow's Saturday, isn't it? No, I don't even know what today is. No, that's right. That's right. Today's only Thursday. Wow, I'm already ahead. But yeah, Saturday, October 30th at the Max Fit Sports Center. And I figured maybe I'll come on and say hi to my favorite people and DK.
I like it already.
I love you too, bud.
So we're talking about Mike Knox, who you may or may not have known, Jaden, appeared at the By Any Means Necessary event in Kentucky. Now, we know that show is going to play out over the next couple of weeks on NWA Power leading up to the pay-per-view. Any thoughts on Mike Knox as a competitor or as a challenger for the 10 pounds of gold?
My brief memory of him was with the WWECW. He was a big guy. He had some size to him. I like guys that actually look like wrestlers. So he did have a unique look and wrestler. I remember him being decent. He didn't really stick out huge on me, but I remember there was worse people on that show. So I guess maybe. What's he been doing since?
Nothing. Showing up in Kentucky to beat up Trevor Murdoch.
Well, aces and eights. He was aces and eights in TNA, which is probably why Billy brought him in.
Yeah, it's like being in the witness protection program. Nobody knew he was there either.
Basically.
So then I guess we could all say that we're not too impressed with that.
It's the good old boy. It's a good old boy network. You know, that's really what you're looking at. And honestly, like, I think that's very, I think Mike Knox is, I mean, that mindset is actually good when you're talking independent wrestling, because you need that. You kind of need that, you know, I mean, but I also wonder, you know, where the NWA classifies itself at this point. And again, even as we get into the show, since the pay-per-views have gone on, they have regressed, in my opinion, back into the how do I take this seriously category.
Yeah.
And this really doesn't surprise me in that regard, because again, if our expectations are for them to be, you know, more of a national level type of show, then I would say this isn't a good move. I would say if you're looking at like a local independent show, I think it's a good move. But what it really looks like is the concept of, you know, having somebody for our champion to beat. And, you know, you see this a lot in all realms of wrestling, especially really, I would say before the modern era. Maybe you would see even WWE would sign a guy just for their champion to beat, so they could keep the belt on him a little bit longer before bringing in a real major contender. And that's kind of how I see it.
Jaden, you're already making fans there in the audience. Kikuchi 629 says, Jaden's back. I hate that guy. So you're doing something right. But speaking of the NWA, and I do believe that Dave Scooby brought up a good point. At least Trevor will have someone to defend the belt against. And the best thing about it is this match could be all about establishing Trevor as a big deal. With a victory in this match, he sets up, you know, either the Pope in January or the next pay-per-view, or even our pal. Why am I drawing a blank on names all of a sudden? Thank you. Our pal Jack Stain, whose name I couldn't remember for a second. It's been that kind of a week. So at the very least, it's kind of like Venom 2 here. It's just it's rushing this story to get to something bigger and better down the road, and I just feel like we'll have to wait and see. I don't know how it's going to be any good. We'll have to wait and see.
Hey, my wife liked Venom 2.
Why?
Oh yeah, she liked it.
She liked it.
I mean, I've had some people that actually did like it.
Well, you know, and here's the thing. I think if you're not a major fan, it's easier to like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because she goes in she doesn't know who Venom is.
Right.
Okay.
I doubt she ever saw one. And so you go in, she has nothing in her mind built up, no anticipation, no nothing. And so she just goes in and watches the movie and goes, hey, that was a good movie.
All right. I felt it was a bit rushed, but that was me. I felt like the last 5 minutes of the movie was the best part of it.
Yeah, I have to go back to what my old my old client, Dr. Kneaton, used to say. He's like, just be happy you got comic book movies to watch.
This is true.
Yeah.
That's a fair point. So let's talk a little bit about what happened on Tuesday night, because we did have an all-women's episode of NWA Power. We had, and I really felt like in terms of match listings, this one was out of place. Like this should have been a couple of weeks ago, and you even hear it a couple of times in the commentary where they reference like Camille. When Camille was being interviewed, they referenced the relationship between Nick and Tom Latimer, and they really didn't sell that there had been an attack, but just that they had this falling out. So it just feels like, again, pacing and editing and styling, they could have done something to make this seem more connected. The show kicks off with Scion denouncing the name Mystery Man, denouncing any friendships he has in the NWA, and essentially calling out Tyrus that he will be challenging him at Hard Times 2. So now we have one match scheduled for the pay-per-view, Hard Times 2. We have Scion and Tyrus for the television title. Does that move the needle for anyone? Does that sound exciting for anyone?
I thought this was a women's show.
Yeah, it was.
So why is he on here?
Why is he opening the show?
Gender equality. That's why.
Good point, Jaden. Good point.
Does it move the needle? No, because I've never been into Scion. And because I've never gotten him, they've done a horrible job of explaining him.
That's because you're asking the wrong questions, DKM. He clearly told you that.
What Scion said.
He clearly told you you're asking the wrong questions.
Well,
the right question is why? Why are we wasting our time with this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't dislike his in-ring action as much as Kevin seems to, and bring up. But I mean, there's just nothing about the guy that makes me excited. I mean, I kind of feel like he talks just sort of low and slow and monotone. So I mean, yeah. That's
so wait,
great.
DK, is that you under the mask?
You're not supposed to know that.
Is that why you don't like him?
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm done with that segment.
Question though, I'm kind of out with the NWA. I haven't really been paying much attention, but don't they usually don't announce any matches till like the show right before the pay-per-view? So isn't this an improvement, I guess?
I mean, you are absolutely correct with that, Jaden. There has been a lot of in the past waiting for the last minute to announce a card. I think when Our Shadows Fall, they finally announced the card on the last show leading into the pay-per-view. So you're right in that we're getting more match announcements, and they are kind of happening more organically, and it's feeling less thrown together. I mean, the whole thing with Tyrus and Scion did play out over a couple of weeks on television. Not that it was great television, but I mean, you're right. We should give credit where credit's due. They are actually just following through with the storyline and setting up that title match.
Well, I would say, since Scion had a nice little run back in the day, you had the Scion TC, the Scion XD, the XB. Are those going to be like his finishing moves and his move names? Because the only thing I know about Scion is the card. And maybe that wasn't a good segue, but it just, I'm trying to be as boring with this talk about Scion as he actually is. And with a low lack of irony and a very bad entertainment value, because truthfully, it's bad. I found it interesting, Jay. One of the things that you pointed out about this show is like it felt out of place. Even this felt out of place. Like we've known he's Scion for a while now.
Yeah.
Like him announcing his name now. It's like, well, bro, we've been knowing you're Scion. And
we don't care.
You know, I mean, and the cool part is though, I'm with Jaden. I'm glad they had a little bit of gender equality on this show, considering, you know, you had 2 interviews with men that didn't fit in at all with anything that was going on with the show. So it's just a head scratcher. I mean, you know, just let like a good. I mean, I would rather watch the Melina promo than watch Scion out there, or like who else promo would I rather see? Like, I mean, if you want to like have a really good idea, I mean, you got the women's tag champs. They'd have been a good promo.
Yeah.
Nice little promo just to open the show and be like, hey, this is a new episode of EMPOWERRR. We're the women's tag team champions, and we're excited about our match tonight. And, you know, talk a little trash and then move on. But I guess they're trying to announce a match, kind of like what you guys were saying. But I think we all knew this match. And let's just go on. Also, one more quick thing about these matches that they're announcing. Like, who is interested in Tyrus versus Mike Knox and Mike Knox versus Trevor Murdoch and Scion versus Tyrus? Like, are those some big time matches to you guys? It's like,
no, not at all. I mean, all right, if the NWA was still having small promotions run and it was Trevor Murdoch versus Mike Knox, then that might be something that's all right. That's a good win for a small promotion to defend the title. It's a name that he can beat. Is it going to put asses in the seats? Probably not. Now, maybe when Mike Knox wrestles and we see him wrestle, maybe he's really good and impressive and completely changes our mind. But right now, it does absolutely nothing for anybody except for maybe Billy Corgan, who's his buddy.
Yep.
So that brings us to the first match of the night, and we're going to try to rush through this tonight, guys, because we do want to talk more about Ring of Honor here in a little bit. But this was the number 1 contendership for the Ring of Honor title: Chelsea Green versus Kylie Ray.
NWA.
What did I say?
Ring of Honor.
Oh, I want to talk about Ring of Honor later tonight.
Yes, but you said it for the Ring of Honor title. It's number 1 contender for the NWA title.
My apologies. For the Burke. This is the Chelsea Green versus Kylie Ray versus Melina. And this match was a very formulaic triple threat match for the NWA. If you've seen one NWA triple threat match, you've probably seen them all. It was very much divide and conquer. I thought some of the highlights were Chelsea Green's headbutt was pretty interesting to see. The moment that Kylie Ray dove on top of Chelsea Green and her cast was used as the weapon, but it was so unintentional. But it also the commentary tried to make it seem like it was a planned deal, but it seemed more like it happened on accident. And during the match, Kylie sold like a champion. Commentary kept putting over Green's hot mess character, and they kept saying, "Oh, we love the hot mess. We love the hot mess," which is very different for the commentary, which has always been pro babyface, to putting over the heel in the match. And then one last note is that Kylie Ray might throw more super kicks than the Young Bucks. She treats it as a transitional move, so like every chance the camera's on her, she's throwing a super kick. It was an okay match. Melina wins with a roll-up on Green. I think we all kind of expected that one. First, Kevin, what did you think of that one?
All I can say is roll-up number 1 on the show, because there were 3 roll-up finishes.
Yep.
And you know how much I love that. And you know, I thought for sure, I definitely thought Chelsea Green stood out in the match as a whole. Melina winning the match, I guess. I don't know. I don't really get it. I don't know. I mean, is this here we go again with another? That's another match that are we just highly anticipated? Like, man, we got Scion versus Tyrus, Murdoch versus Knox, and now we got Camille versus Melina. And it's like it's really shaping up to be like more of a WWE Legends semi Legends show when I mean semi, is that none of them are really that much of a legend. But you know, it's just like, let's get some old some old talent, and throw them out there against our people to try to give them a little bit of a rub. But they're too far gone in terms of their relevance to be, you know, again, I'd rather see Chelsea Green versus Camille than I'd like to see Melina. But chances are they're not going to be able to get her again.
Yeah. DK, your thoughts?
First of all, I think the match shows why we like Chelsea Green as Chelsea Green.
Uh-huh.
Because when she's in the ring and she's wrestling, she's actually pretty damn good. And I can enjoy her performance. Of course, it was a 3-way match because, you know, modern day wrestling, hate 3-ways. And the NWA is developing a bigger and bigger commentary problem. And the commentators need to tell me what's going on in the ring and give me any relevant background. I really don't give a shit whether they like the hot mess character or not. But I think Billy has them out trying to sell us on, this is what you need to be liking, this is what you need to be doing, and stuff like, you know, and, you know, this is where you need to go. No, I should be able to figure that out by how the match is going. You know, I'm not going to dwell on the hot mess we talked about last time. It had its time. Move past it. And the match, okay, Melina won. She's looked better in this set of going around, but no, I can't say I'm overly excited for a Melina Camille match. Like Kevin said, I would have been more excited for a Chelsea Green rematch. So, Jaden?
I actually normally like when I have 3 girls at one time, but I don't know.
What happened?
Chelsea Green's talented. Kylie Ray is apparently destroying somebody's house in the background, but Kylie Ray is
Sorry about that. That was my fault. My finger slipped.
Yeah, you didn't like what I was saying. I got you. Yeah, Kylie Ray's entertaining. Chelsea Green's the actually good wrestler. Melina's the name, but honestly, I really just don't care.
Yeah, and again, the show for what was supposed to be this big moment to play off the pay-per-view that brought this woman empowerment, the show, I mean, I don't know how it empowered anybody. The next match we have is Camille versus Tutti Lynn. They first announced that it was a non-title match, but if Tutti Lynn wins the match, it becomes a women's championship match. Now, the interesting part of this to me was I don't think anyone had any doubts that Camille was going to win this match, including Camille herself. However, she got really upset when they announced it, if Tutti Lynn would win the match, that she would get a title shot. That to me is very contradictory of the kind of champion that Camille has been thus far. She's been a very, I will beat everybody down you put in front of me type of champion. And for her to act a little concerned about, with no disrespect to Tutti Lynn, somebody who's been on TV maybe 3 times since she's been on the roster, that just seemed very weird to me and out of character for Camille. Other than that, the match is exactly what it needed to be. Almost zero offense from Tutti Lynn. She got tossed around like a rag doll for a few minutes, one knee, one other move, and then spear, match over. To me, that's the match it should have been. Kevin, did you have thoughts on this one? Oh, hold on, Kevin. That's my fault. My fault.
No, I muted myself. I've got a Armageddon going on in the kitchen. Now she can laugh at me. But no, now I probably won't get any food. But yeah. Okay, sorry. I was kidding. Y'all, I'm in trouble right now.
When you make that face, I was joking.
No, y'all know how I feel about Tutti Lynn. And then she was announced as from Team Ambition. Did y'all catch that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the same.
Obviously,
Not the same Team Ambition.
I was gonna say, because if it is, she obviously doesn't been trained very well. But
No. Not different team ambition.
that was a shot at Davey Richards and Kyle O'Reilly and those guys. A straight up shot. No punch pull. But no, I'm with you. I mean, it was what it was. I thought it was kind of silly that Camille even cared. I feel like her not caring at all should have been the way it went. I felt like the finish was a little bit sloppy. I felt like as a whole, you know, the show itself, and this was something I was actually thinking about. So this was all taped. This whole thing was taped at the last pay-per-view.
Not at the actual pay-per-view, but that same 4 or 5 days of taping. Yeah.
Yeah, man. You know, I'm gonna give them a little bit of a leeway here because I'm sitting here thinking they got to be tired, man. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Like they and again, y'all know, right? I don't make any excuses for these guys and girls, right? Y'all know that. Like, I don't give them any leeway for not being in shape. I don't give them any leeway for any of that, for looking sloppy in the ring, none of that. But also, it's true, you know, like there's only so much, you know, and I'm wondering what order they taped it in. And I'm looking at Allison Kay and I'm going, you know, remember the match I was saying that she just looked sloppy? And looking back, I'm like, maybe she looked tired is what I really need to maybe say. And so again, it's just very thrown together, and it just kind of feels like that. And I think that we've just seen so much botchery in the ring work in this era of tapings has been really disappointing. But I will say this was probably my favorite episode of NWA for a while. So as a whole, I thought it was pretty good, given that I expect them to have editing errors, and I understand, you know, their production quality is going to be crap because it was all taped at the same time. The audio is going to be crap because it's been crap since they've been in the chase. But the actual in-ring stuff was pretty good, I would say, as a whole. And this was kind of in that same boat. I felt like, you know, just as a whole, the overall show itself was pretty good. I just thought the booking wasn't very good.
Some of the comments that we've been getting in have Chelsea, Dave Scooby said, Chelsea Green with the Iron Mike Sharp forearm protective brace. I got a kick out of that. Terry McDermott said that was a predictable match, and it was. I mean, we kind of saw that. Willie Bowen again with the shot at Tyrus. The only Armageddon is Tyrus's empty refrigerator. I love those. Keep them coming, Willie. Sean Mega says, time to go back to Atlanta. And our friend Kikuchi says, time to tape 1 month at a time. And, you know, I think there are some financials involved that prevent them from doing that, but I think that would really help the overall product as if they could do that.
Yeah, the financials are Billy Corgan's cheap.
Sean Mega says wrestling companies are struggling right now. Terry McDermott says the Chase story has played out, and there's still more Chase matches, by the way. And then Sean Mega agrees with Kikuchi. It's time to start taping monthly. So, I mean, yes, we have to kind of give them a little bit of a pass, but at the same time, it's like, you know, the stakes are what they are. You know, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood tapes 4 episodes a TV taping once a month. The same thing as Championship Wrestling from Atlanta. Same thing as Championship Wrestling from Memphis. I would imagine that if these guys could do it, why can't the NWA?
Well, the problem is with all these extra chase matches are going to chase the few fans they have left away if they keep doing this. They need something refreshed. They need something just more with it, more modern to the times. Right now, there's a plethora of wrestlers looking for work, and they could probably come at a decent cost. Maybe, I don't know, they start doing once a month, and their own NWA wrestlers can get a little more work and maybe get a little more their timing back and their crispness back in the ring. And maybe they can bring in some talent to freshen this up and not be so boring. And maybe, just maybe, they can get somebody who actually knows how to write storylines.
I mean, that you're preaching to the choir right here.
Exactly 100% down the line, right? 100%.
So next up, we have the Mildred Burke match.
I don't get any comments. Well, they can be that way. Right?
Oh, I'm sorry, DK. I'm so sorry. Go ahead, sir. What were your 2 cents on this one?
Honestly, I have a question.
Yeah.
Tutti Lynn was built up as this kind of great local talent, before the thing.
Yeah.
Hasn't she lost every match?
Yeah.
So you bring a great local talent in and you just keep beating her.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of what they did in TV tapings for years? The local talents get beat.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, and the reason that it's anything to me is because, A, they were making a big deal out of her before the thing. And St. Louis really took to the NWA coming back and doing this. I mean, you just think you'd show a little bit of respect for the local girl. Yeah, supposedly she has talent, but I haven't been able to see because they haven't really booked her in a match where I get to see any.
Well, I think they could have used her in the same position they used Kenzie Page to get that win on Chelsea Green, and that would have meant something for her. They could have done a lot of things. They chose not to do. But the fact of the matter is that they did bring her to Kentucky to be a part of the pay-per-view. So there is something to them liking her as a talent. Just so far, it hasn't materialized.
Well, maybe the facts of life are Tootie's just not that good.
She's not.
I mean, maybe she's not.
That is the facts of life. That is the facts of life.
You take the good.
But what about Blair? Is Blair any good? I mean, come on.
I mean, it's true though. She's not that good. I mean, I've been saying that. So, let's plow through. There was a really good match on this show.
Right,
Didn't
real
have a
quick,
good finish, but there was a really good match.
Doty wants to point out, by any means necessary, it is probably a test if the NWA can do tapings more than just 4 months of tapings. I think what would be interesting, real quick, and I will get back to the match, but last thing I want to say is I think it would be really cool if the NWA did their regular tapings in Atlanta, and instead of trying to do a studio taping show at the Chase or at Tried and True Pro or wherever they're going next, they should just do it like a regular show and not try to shoehorn it in to a typical broadcast that they would do in Atlanta. It's not going to be the same. So don't make it the same. You still have Power. You still do your episodes of Power, but then when they do a show in Valor Hall in Kentucky, make that its own thing. Don't try to make it something it's not.
But I think we have to go with what Jaden said, but they're also being cheap here.
Yeah.
That's probably why they're trying to get as much out of each thing as they can. All in all, I'm all right with that because, again, as long as we tether our expectations of this, we can enjoy the show for what it is.
Moving us to the Mildred Burke rules match. Now, I thought this was a very peculiar match in that you chose the wrong talents to perform in this match because both Sky Blue and Lady Frost are high flyers. Everything that they've done up until this point has showcased them flying through the ring. Lady Frost has probably the best moonsault in the business today. Although I enjoyed this match, I just thought it was a silly rule to come up with. And I don't know why you'd want to limit your talent. The basic rule was there's no offense off the top rope and no closed fist, which, again, that's supposed to be a rule in all wrestling, at least from the NWA standpoint. Both of these ladies know how to work. I really felt like they both know how to work the camera very well, too. If you notice the nuances from Sky Blue, winking at the camera, Lady Frost bowing to the camera, and all of her stuff inside the ring, she was really focusing on that camera, the audience at home, which I felt was top notch. The match was fairly competitive. Frost was frequently getting frustrated by her inability to use the top rope for offense, and the finish of the match came when Lady Frost finally said, to heck with it, I'm going to go for that moonsault because I love doing it. Sky Blue caught her, and then we got this awkward altercation, and then another roll-up, Kevin, to end the match.
We call that a botch, Jay. They botched the finish.
Oh, sure. I get it.
I'll jump in since I'm talking. No one else is talking. So I couldn't agree again with you more. And I really think like this was one of your chances to have like their young, unknown talent actually go out there and steal the show. And of all times, they're gonna limit them and restrict them. It's like what should you not do? Let's go ahead and do that. That's what it really felt like. I just thought, I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, why does this match need a stipulation? Just go out there, give us like 10 really good minutes, and who cares what the finish is? But by all means, if you're going to have a roll-up for every finish of the night, this would have been the match to have a finisher. And it would have been a good one, too, because Lady Frost deserves like a straight-up win. Man, they really blew it on this one because it could have been a really good match. It was still a good match, but it could have been way better.
Maybe the ghost of Bill Watts is taking over whoever's booking the show. And yes, I know Bill Watts is dead, but wrestling is, so maybe that's why the ghost of Bill Watts booked this event.
All right.
Maybe. Hey, we're really taking too much time on this show, but I do want to get this in. First of all, the reason that it was Lady Frost and Sky Blue that had these rules is because the rules affect Lady Frost and Sky Blue.
That's fair.
If you put it in with people who normally do mat wrestling, what difference does it make? Second of all, there was only one rule that was different, despite the way they were talking about it, which was, the no moves off the top rope. Because over the top rope is already supposed to be illegal in the NWA. A fist is supposed to be illegal in wrestling in general.
Yep.
So, Mildred, that's like when they do the old NWA rules for the Battle Royals that were never ever followed by the NWA. Those were never real rules. And then, Lady Frost got a win finally.
Yeah, that's the only really redeeming thing about this match. Look, it was a decent match, but silly way to end it. Silly way to have it.
What happened next, Jay?
So next is the next gender equality moment where Paro, who has been openly gay on the independent wrestling scene for a while, made it known in the NWA that he is a gay man. And I don't know why that has anything to do with any of this, but he said he was jealous of Kratos because of the opportunities that Stevens and Kratos have gotten. And Paro can be really fire on the mic, and that the whole part about him being gay. I'm not trying to tell him how to live his life, but it didn't add anything to this. It didn't subtract anything, but it really didn't add anything. It just he kind of threw it out there, and if you didn't know, you probably didn't know, and if probably didn't care. But it was a fired promo that stating that those two guys are just thrown together. We're a tag team. We work for this. You guys have been given opportunities. I like that. I like the fired up Paro. But is this going to be a pay-per-view match? I don't know. You guys have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I didn't care. Next.
Yeah, it wasn't really a good promo at all. So, and I'm with you, Jay. I think that's a segment like that you have, like, I don't know, I didn't think it was even a good promo on any behalf, and really and truly, you don't even need this on this particular show. Next.
And then next we had a tag team match. Now this was something I was looking forward to because especially with Team X, in the last, 2 or 3 weeks, they had that title match at Ring of Honor that just showed up, I think, yesterday after their first official defense on television. And then, of course, they defended the titles last Saturday at the By Any Means Necessary pay-per-view. So they have had now.
Did they?
What's that?
Did they?
Well, they were supposed to. Again, I don't know. I wasn't there. They were scheduled to have. We'll leave it.
The only reason I'm questioning it was because of, Kylie Ray pulled off. I didn't know if they found another partner or.
Again, the results for this show have been so just absent. I've looked everywhere. I haven't been able to find anything, but we'll know in a couple of weeks, I guess. The match itself was pretty good. Team Hex looked really good. Paola took most of the heat in the match. Genocide kind of came in with the power, but was used in the limited capacity, mostly because I think they wanted to put Team Hex over and have them get a lot of offense in the match. Taryn Terrell had minimal interference and really didn't do much to help her team win the match. Ultimately, Team Hex wins. DK, what were your thoughts?
I don't know if I'm going to be in the minority or my majority here. I didn't particularly care for the match. I thought Marty Bell looked lost several times, especially at the beginning. I don't know why Taryn Terrell was even there. She didn't do anything other than show her boobs like normal. And,
that's why she was there, DK. That's why she was there.
Yeah, I guess. So, again, trying to wrap this show up quickly. Well,
okay. Kevin, you're laughing. Is your wife saying something funny, or are you laughing at us?
No, I can't believe we're not talking about Taryn Terrell's sick bump off the apron. She didn't even hit. Her feet didn't touch.
No,
she straight up face planted on the apron and then went straight to the floor face first. I was like, it was like the bump of the season. That was sick. And I don't think it was. I think it was a botch, because I don't think in reality that's what she wanted to do. And God Almighty, I hope she's okay.
She has enough protection. I doubt her face, hit with impact.
I thought it was hilarious. I mean, not funny, but funny. It was like, it caught me out of nowhere. I had to rewind a couple times on that. That was really good.
I'm confused. What is DK saying? I'm confused. What is DK saying? Is he saying the airbags protected her?
I think they did.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, keeping it classy, I thought the match was all right. I mean, again, this was the point I realized that maybe, just maybe, the wrestlers are a bit tired. It dawned on me at this point. I'm thinking to myself, maybe I need to, again, tether my expectations, because they're just asking, they're asking a lot of these wrestlers to wrestle all these matches in a short amount of time. They're asking them to put up with this god-awful booking, make something out of these god-awful stories. And, and some of the top talents having to mix in with some of these not quite so talented wrestlers. They're just asking a lot. So, again, I've just kind of given a little bit of sympathy or empathy or whatever it is in this case. But I thought the match was all right. But it was another roll-up, right? No, this had a finisher.
They did have a finish.
It was all right. It was an all right match. It wasn't bad, but again, now what do you do with Genocide and Paola? Now that they're not a team anymore, I don't think. And that whole stable has now just been kind of trash. And I thought, Paola was kind of getting the greenhorn welcome to the wrestling from Marty and Allison. And I just don't think this is the place for that. And you've heard me say the same thing about Camille. When you're the veteran and you're on television, like, you got to take that seriously. Like, you want to show her who's boss, say, hey, let's chain wrestle in the ring before the show, and then you beat the crap out of her and be like, yeah, I'm the vet. But when you're on television and we're paying to watch it, like, keep it professional. You can beat the crap out of somebody and still, like, lead them through a match. So, but I thought it was overall pretty good.
Jaden, did you want to add anything to that?
No, didn't say it. So can't really add much to it. I have to say though, Team Hex, is there a single wrestler Hex? But anyway, they've defended their championships more often and more recently than most of the NWA champions combined.
They went from no defenses to all of a sudden having like 3 in the last month. So props to them, I guess. And, to Team Hex's credit, they just defeated the Allure in Ring of Honor. Again, they got this big victory. And then, going back to Paola Blaze, because I don't believe wrestling was her first calling. This was only her 7th match in the business, according to Cage Match. So she is the greenhorn for sure. And Kevin, I think you're right. She probably deserved better than that. But
we deserve better. We deserve better. It's not about her. We deserve better. You're a professional. You're good enough. Look, I was good enough, and I'm not trying to say I'm great or anything of that nature, but I was at least good enough to go beat somebody up and still put on a good match. And if I really wanted to beat somebody up, that wasn't something that, necessarily, and again, especially if we're on television, that wasn't something that was necessarily, I didn't get along very well with some of the guys that I had some of my best matches with, and we didn't like each other, but this wasn't the time to go out there and do that. It just, you're better than that.
Yeah.
What happened next, Jay?
Next is we had the women's championship match. We had, excuse me, did I say women's championship match? No championship match. We had the main event of the night, Kiera Hogan and Mickie James. Now, for weeks, we would have Kiera Hogan appear on programming, first of all saying that Mickie James, she heard what you were talking about her. Mickie James played it off. No, there's no heat here. And then the next thing we get is Kiera Hogan a few weeks later on TV saying, she went all Dennis Stamp on it and said, Terry, I'm not booked. You didn't book me, Terry. and Mickie James' response to that was, hey, we don't do that here in the NWA, that was a weird sentiment to me right off the bat because she's been in the NWA for about 5 minutes. She's now telling us how the NWA goes. Okay, cool. But then that's exactly what happened is that the squeaky wheel got the grease. Kiera Hogan got the match. And, I know this was a big moment for Kiera Hogan. I know there's pictures circulating on social media of a young Kiera Hogan getting a hug from Mickie James and that she's looked up to her as a wrestler. She's looked up to her as someone who's, broken through these barriers to get to professional wrestling. But again, when we know that Kiera Hogan is now signed with AEW and we know Mickie James just won the Impact World Champion Knockout Championship, this match just, again, felt very out of place. I'm not sure what kind of story they were telling. And I don't know if this match was supposed to be like, oh, this will draw him in because look at the star power. It just kind of fell flat to me. I was very uninterested in this match. I'm going to go to you first, Kevin. What did you think?
On the surface, it was a good match, though. As a whole, it was actually a good match. Other than what I felt like was a kind of a weak finish, I felt like it was a good match all in all. Like just the pacing. It's the first time I've seen anybody, male or female, in a while, especially in the NWA, go out there and wrestle, tell a wrestling story, or at least try. It was just a good match overall. And again, all in all, I'm happy with it just because it was a good match. Dang it, finally. I didn't like the roll up for the finish, but other than that, it's hard to really complain because finally, after weeks of wrestling, watching, we had a good match. It's been a while since we can be man, that was a great match. Finally, we had a good match. And I found myself watching it going, okay, man, this is pretty good. They're trying to tell a story too. And not one of these off the cuff or one of these goofy NWA stories that they normally do. This was a younger wrestler trying to prove herself to her kind of her idol or the person she's always looked up to. And you got that feeling when you watched the match. And again, I feel like, I don't know what they're going to do with this, if they're going to do anything with it, but either or, it's this is kind of what I've been saying all along, content. And Jay, I think I'll be quoting you, good content can make up for a lot. And it is wrestling, and if you can just put good wrestling out there and the wrestling is good and you can tell a good story, you can make up for a lot of bad booking and a lot of stuff. And I felt like this match at least was a good wrestling match. Finally.
DK, your 2 cents.
I didn't watch it.
You didn't watch the match?
Nope.
No desire, no time.
honestly, I hadn't really cared for the way they built it up. I kind of knew it was probably. I kind of knew what it was going to be. I figured both of them have talent. Both of them are okay, in the ring. I don't know that either one was great in the ring, but both of them are okay in the ring. And I just had no interest, really. Just like the rest of the show, it kind of turned me off altogether. So it was just like, I'm done.
Fair enough. Jaden, I know you didn't watch the match, but did you have anything you'd like to add about the two competitors?
First of all, I heard it was a good match. I don't know where I heard it from, but I heard it was a good match. Second of all, Mickie James, I know her personally, and I've worked with her. I've met her. She's a really good talent. I mean, she ain't going to put over you three ham sandwich jabronis on Camille, apparently. But she is a very, very good wrestler. And Kiera Hogan, I've seen her. She's a very good wrestler. Maybe with a better storyline, it could have been something that I know Kiera Hogan's now working for AEW, and they could use a lot of help in their women's division. But it's somebody with some name value against somebody with a whole lot of name value. It's probably right now, if they would have had a good storyline, probably something smart the NWA would have done. I didn't see it, so I can't be 100% on it, but Mickie James is probably the biggest star they have right now. And I'm not sure if she's the one that booked that Empower show, but maybe she's the talented booker in the family.
Well, yeah, she gets credit with coming together to create that Empower pay-per-view. She's the one that gets credit with that. James H. Jackson wanted to say that Kiera Hogan signed a per-match deal with AEW, not a full-time contract. And that leads Dodie to say, well, then I guess she's still the hottest free agent after all. Both points are true. So that's gonna wrap up our coverage of the Empower. That's wrapping up our NWA talk. But we still have a lot more we want to get to because we want to talk about Ring of Honor. And with everything that's happened recently in the Ring of Honor, I feel like the Alliance guys, and this is the first time that all four Alliance guys have been on at one time. This is earth-shaking, groundbreaking. We're going to talk about what's going on with Ring of Honor. And first and foremost, if you guys haven't heard the announcement, essentially what is happening is that the Ring of Honor has announced to its talent that everyone is now free to work anywhere without restriction, and that if they need to get out of their contracts, the management is willing to work with them to get them out of their contract. The other caveat to that is no contracts will be renewed at the end of the year, which is typically when they sign their talents, and that the last show of the year will be the final battle, aptly titled, and then after that show, the entire promotion will be on hiatus. Reruns will air on the Sinclair channels that it currently airs on, and they plan to come back sometime in April with a new reimagined, reinvented Ring of Honor. I know that DK and I and really all four of us have been talking about this, so we want to talk about it with you guys. And first and foremost, Jaden is somebody in the New Jersey wrestling scene, somebody close to Ring of Honor and the work that you do with Dr. Lawrence Zirconium and Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. Some of the talent that's appearing on your guys' show on Saturday are going to be affected by this. And could you tell us, from your perspective as working closely with a wrestling promotion like Dog, what does this mean for those folks in those wrestling promotions? And what does it mean for somebody like you who promotes wrestling?
Well, I'm not really the promoter. I'm more of the hands-on guy. But I'm the guy who's been in the business, so I know a lot of the wrestlers, personally. And there's at least three that I can think of, wrestlers from Ring of Honor that are going to be on this next Dog event on Saturday, which is not tomorrow. And I guess I'll see them there and ask them their perspective, from there. The only thing I'm not sure you are 100% correct from, I don't think it's exactly reruns are going to be showing. I have a feeling they have a lot of matches in the vault that they're going to be mixing in with some classic matches from like pay-per-views and big shows and stuff like that. And I understand the office is still intact. It's still a company. And from what I've gathered around, There's not going to be anybody wrestling for Ring of Honor exclusively. They're going to do a set of tapings and have whatever independent talent just happens to be available. And from what I understand, it looked like they might be working with some other companies too. Maybe the NWA, maybe Impact Wrestling, maybe AEW. I doubt MLW because they seem to be an island on their own. But that's good. Maybe you're going to start seeing these talents branch out other places elsewhere. I heard already there's a large contingent that has recently signed with AEW in a big rumor. Uncle Dave apparently put that out there. But I guess it's good for wrestling and bad for the wrestlers. I kind of am in the mind that when it comes to the major league companies, there should be less of them because they're splitting. There's not enough talent. They're watering down rosters, having less and less good talent on all these different rosters. The NWA is currently going through it right now, in my opinion. There's not enough good talent out there to be able to sustain all that. So they may find some zirconium in the rough, as Dr. Zirconium would say. But, there's not enough. That's why we have the Tyruses and the Mike Knoxes and the Molinas and whatever the cast off and used to be's are still out there. Maybe now we'll see like O'Shea Edwards. O'Shea Edwards is amazing. If you don't know him, look him up. And I think he'll be great for the NWA. I would love to see him maybe challenge for one of the championships. Joe Keys, who's on this next dog event, very, very, very talented. Eric Martin, Glassbur's own, very, very, very talented. Brian Johnson, he should be somewhere. Great promo, good wrestler. There's a lot of talent out there now that the NWA and MLW and Ring of Honor and everybody else not Ring of Honor, Impact can really take advantage of and maybe strengthen their rosters.
Kevin. Go ahead. I'm sorry, DK. You go right ahead.
Yeah, they are doing their TV tapings that were scheduled with the pay-per-view.
Okay.
And so they'll have a series of TV tapings that'll take them so far, and then they'll do a mix of stuff from the vault. Is what it sounds like.
Okay.
To get them through to the next time they do a show. And here's the actual announcement, just in case, so people can hear how it's actually worded. Throughout the pandemic, our top priority was to keep everyone healthy and safe. And despite not producing any live events over 18 months, we were able to keep everyone fully contracted. We now find ourselves at a time where we need to make changes to our business operations and are planning a pivot for Ring of Honor with a new mission and strategy. The year will accumulate with the final battle in December, and we'll be taking the first quarter of 2022 to work internally to reimagine ROH. ROH has the most dedicated fans in the industry, and we appreciate appreciate their loyalty and patience as we reconceptualize ROH. We anticipate returning to live events in April for the Super Card of Honor with a new fan-focused product and provide a unique experience for our wrestling fans. And one thing I want to say, I listened to an interview that Pro Wrestling Insider on their elite side did. And it was with Joe Koff, and he makes it sound like there are no changes in the front office. Hunter Johnson's going to continue to be the booker. Doesn't sound like any executives are there. That basically they've gone 18 months without making money, and now they got to do something. And so, I would be careful listening to anybody, be it Meltzer or even some of these websites. I think they're looking at lots of things, even some of the credible websites, because I think they're looking at lots of things. And I don't think anything's locked in yet. I think it's kind of foolish to go, oh, well, these are the plans, when they're taking 3 months off to try and figure stuff out. So that's going to be my one caution. Hey, every rumor that's out there now may come true. But if you listen to the Joe Koff interview, you can tell that, he wants things to only change as much as they need to.
Now, Kevin, out of the four of us, you've most recently competed inside of a ring. You know what the in and outs of being a pro wrestler are. I know this is a scary time for wrestlers who recently have lost their jobs, but what does this mean to you? What do you think about this?
I really think it's and y'all saw my message in the chat, that I really think a lot of it is what part of what I'm calling the AEW effect. You're starting to see a vacuum happen where the majority of, again, the money is starting to flow towards two major companies, which is not a bad thing. It's better than one. But the reality is that the type of production, the type of money that it takes to run a legitimately large professional wrestling organization, given the times that we're in, there's only so much to go around. I know that sounds like somewhat kind of like, what would you say? Like, I'm not trying to be negative about that. I just think that there really is only so much money that is there, and so many decent TV spots that are there that are going to keep a product that is not performing in front of crowds, is not really, I tried to watch one of their shows a couple months ago, and it was bad. So again, I think one of the harsh realities is that the on-air product is really not that great right now. That doesn't mean that there's not talent in there. There's talent in the NWA. We complain all the time about the way the talent's being used, but that doesn't mean that there's not talent in the company. But if I'm Ring of Honor, man, I think the first place they should have started with the executives. That should have been a place they really did think about it and really think about the booker. I don't know any of these people, but so again, I don't have a horse in the race. Maybe all of them are great people. I don't really know. That's not how business works. It's not about how cool you are. It's about how good you are at your job. And my mom, believe it or not, is a Ring of Honor fan. And even her, she hasn't talked about Ring of Honor in over a year. And so again, I think a little bit of it is the AEW effect, is that a lot of the wrestlers that probably would be on the main event of Ring of Honor, that might be drawing a lot of interest on Ring of Honor, are now wrestling on AEW. And so again, you're looking at you're seeing a large company pulling a lot of the excess talent to it. And again, I think that's part of the play. That's part of what they're trying to do. And again, they're not going to come out there and say, hey, we're trying to bankrupt all the indies and become the next big thing. But the reality is that they are. And they want to become the next big thing. And that's just part of what they're trying to do, is they're doing everything they can to compete. And I think it's really hurting companies like ROH. And again, there's probably more. This is probably not one thing. It's probably a big combination of things. But I also think, it's a shame. I mean, Shane Taylor is a friend of mine, and he's got a lot of momentum going with Ring of Honor right now. But I think a lot of these guys will land fine, because I don't think they were necessarily making a ton of money for Ring of Honor. And so it's not like the indies won't provide them the opportunity to keep making their money. And the truth is that, if you're an independent wrestler and you're not making over 6 figures a year doing your job, you need to have a side hustle anyway, because you got to pay the bills.
Well, and the thing that keeps going back to me is, like, how easily could this have been the National Wrestling Alliance? We talk about the NWA. This is our bread and butter. But similarly, they went through the global pandemic, and they went through this pandemic with the inability to create new content. We saw how terrible Carneyland was. They had the inability to draw an audience. Their Patreon helped support the show for the promotion for a bit. Eventually did not work out. And it's very, like, they had high-end contracts too. I mean, they had Eli Drake, they had James Storm, they had Nick Aldis, they have a couple of other guys on the roster currently. And this could have very easily have been the NWA. The NWA decided to take a knee and not promote any events during this time. Ring of Honor continued to provide work for their talents, but without a live audience. And you can't.
They did go through a period where they were shut down completely.
Right. As everyone was.
Right. I mean, they did go through a period where they were shut down completely. But look, you look at two promotions that, quote unquote, did everything right for the pandemic era. You know, WWE took a lot of criticism for releasing people and record profits and all that stuff. But, you know, New Japan, they weren't running shows, but they were still paying their contracts. Ring of Honor was kind of the same thing. And then, unlike other places that did bring fans back, Ring of Honor never, I mean, I think they did for a pay-per-view, but outside of that, you know, they didn't bring fans back at all. And, you know, both those companies have been suffering and have been having a hard time financially. And, you know, I'm not trying to make a moral statement out of it one way or another, but ultimately you got to make money. And I think we all see what happens when you don't.
Well, and then, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I did want to say a few other things too, because when we look at the direction that Ring of Honor was heading prior to the pandemic, there was a lot of excitement because of some front office changes. And I know, like, look, we shouldn't bring up the boogeyman's name, but Marty Scurll was set to be the head booker of Ring of Honor. They put him in that position. They took Delirious out of that spot, and it was supposed to be Marty Scurll guiding that ship going forward. And there was a lot of excitement about that, and a lot of people were happy about that. Of course, that didn't pan out, and it's probably for the best that it didn't because of all the allegations that came out later with Marty Scurll. But that, I mean, they showed you in 2019 that they weren't satisfied with what they were getting in terms of the storytelling that they were doing, and they made changes only to go right back to Delirious once Marty was no longer a part of the company. To me, that's a little bit telling too, that they went right back to Delirious. And I'm not trying to badmouth Delirious. I don't really know the guy. I don't know what angles he's booked and what he hasn't booked, but apparently they tried to make a change in that direction.
I know Delirious. He's a
know-it-all. Delirious has been in charge since Adam Pearce left. Yeah. So all the success that they had after Adam Pearce left, and they had quite a bit, that was Hunter Johnson, Delirious, whatever you want to call him. And so, you know, like a lot of people, and in Joe Kopp, I don't remember his exact comment in the interview, but he kind of admits that ROH blew it in allowing the creation of AEW. And he almost sounded like that could have been their opportunity. And I don't remember his exact words, but the impression I got was that he was saying that they blew it, that could have been their opportunity. And that was probably their high point. And then when Cody and all that talent left, boy, things got bad. Now, when they came back and they were doing the Pure tournament worked well in the empty arena.
Right.
But when they started going back to wrestling, you'll notice they would still do a lot of Pure matches, Pure tag team matches, whatever. But when they started going back to trying to do the storylines and interference and people coming down and beating each other up and everything like that, that doesn't work in an empty arena.
No.
Because you don't have the crowd there getting into it. Jayden, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah,
I've been watching Ring of Honor, and it's on local television. It took a while to find on Philly stations because even though they were based out of Philly for a while, they didn't have a station that had Ring of Honor on there. But I remember when they had a crowd, and this crowd was so quiet for most of the time anyway, unless they were trying to put themselves over. It really didn't seem that much of a difference in the empty arena. It's just, they got good wrestling, but the Philly crowd especially, and the Ring of Honor crowd, they're very. How do I put this? They're very not exciting. They don't really get super into it unless it was Danhausen. And they seem so often those type of crowds, they care more about putting themselves over or getting excited about what they're doing than what's going on inside the ring. So I guess I really didn't notice that much of a difference with the silent crowd. The commentary, I think, was a little bit different because it was a lot more hushed in the silent buildings. They were more like a golf commentators instead of wrestling commentators. It was too quiet. But the actual fans, there wasn't that much difference.
Hey, I want to get to some of the comments in the chat because we've been missing on some of them. But we are an interactive program who love our fans. But Jody points out this may sound harsh, but as soon as AEW formed, ROH feels seems already to have served its purpose and lost its meaning. I think that was a little bit what Kevin was getting into. What would Luthez do? Agrees with Doty. James says ROH paid everyone, even the per match guys during all of this. Dave Scooby, been to a few ROH events in Philly and they only had about 300 to 400 in attendance, while MLW and Battleground had 800 to 1,000 at each of their events. I'm unfamiliar with Battleground. Doty, Carneyland dead more because of Lagana's departure, which is probably true, but it sucked all the same.
True.
James, I went to many ROH shows. One of my favorites was the Boiling Point pay-per-view here in Rhode Island back in 2012. Kevin Steen was on the card. Doty, ROH. Glorious work with New Japan Pro Wrestling during 2016, but also feels it hurt ROH in the long run. Their guys mostly lost, I think, from the New Japan guys. And when New Japan leaves, then, they're left with the losers. James, they had the elite on their payroll and allowed them to leave by lowballing their contract renewals, Bully Ray said. Not that I trust Bully Ray, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Be careful mentioning Bully Ray. Somebody might get mad at you and snitch to you on Twitter or something like that.
I don't care. I was never a Bully Ray fan. I was never a Dudley fan. I'm sorry, people, but that may be sacrilege or whatever. But I never got the Dudleys and never liked them. Terry says very vanilla. I guess we're talking about probably ROH Stan. Style. And another reason why interpromotional work with New Japan or generally a promotion much bigger than yours, probably not always a good idea. And I think, I'm going to segue that into the Impact thing really recently. Impact AEW partnership, working agreement, open forbidden door, whatever you want to call it, supposedly ended at the last pay-per-view. And it was noted that the Good Brothers weren't on Dynamite Wednesday. And, there's a podcast out there that made it sound like, well, it helped Impact some. It helped Impact some. They left a lot of stuff on the table. Impact had some of its lowest ratings during the time frame. They got the initial pop with Kenny, and then after that, their ratings plummeted. And they went through some of their lowest ratings that they ever had. And look, that was never about helping Impact. That was about AEW being able to get Kenny Omega over by giving him another world title and then let them use the Good Brothers. That was all that was ever about. So all you people that keep talking about partnerships, no. They aren't for the good of everybody.
Well, there's a difference between a partnership and basically like we're the A team, you're the B team, and let's get that established. And that's what AEW was doing.
But I mean,
they were establishing that they were the bigger company.
The reason the NWA ended the relationship with ROH the first time was because they basically realized that they weren't helping the NWA at all. And it was that ROH is, we're the A team, you're the B team, and, you know, we're doing this to our advantage, not to help you. And, you know, hey, look what happened. So, and then I also want to bring up real quick, let you guys get in there. They're not the only ones that are revamping themselves. MLW has basically said, we're not doing the long 3-4 hour burn out the crowd shows anymore.
No.
Where I guess they had 15 matches on one show.
That's a bit much.
I mean, that was much even back in the Crockett era days, you know, before TV. And, you know, in Texas, man, if you had 5 matches on a card, you had a normal card. You know, it was only super cards that you got up into 7 or 8, you know, 9 match cards. But, you know, they cut 3 people who aren't anybody of notoriety or anything like that. And they'll probably cut some more along the same lines, people who probably aren't, you know, big. But, you know, Burt Bauer has said, you know, we're not doing these large shows anymore. We're not doing these large tapings anymore. And, you know, if that means fewer people get on the show or, you know, are booked, then so be it. So, you know, people are now having to pay the consequence of the pandemic.
Yeah, that's part of it too.
And so, you know, they're saying we have to make money, which has always been Billy's idea from the start, sometimes to his detriment. But, yeah, this is why you always got to be careful. We'll go, well, he's a millionaire. Yeah, you know why people are millionaires? They don't waste their money.
One thing I do want to talk about too is I was looking at the list of names who are currently involved in Ring of Honor. Some of them are more recent than others, but I mean, there are 54 names of active roster talents on their card, and that's not including guys that have showed up like Homicide or Chris Dickinson. I mean, that's talking about guys that have been there for a while. So just, you know, I'm not going to go through every name, but names that stand out to me, like Angelina Love, Bandito, Bateman, the Beer City Bruiser, Brody King, Brian Johnson, Dax Draper, Dalton Castle, Delirious, Dragon Lee, EC3, Flamita, Flip Gordon, the Briscoe Brothers, Jay Lethal, Jonathan Gresham, Kenny King, Mandy Leon, Maria and Michael Bennett, Mark Haskins, Matt Taven, Miranda Elise, PJ Black, PCO, Ray Oris, Rhett Titus, Rush, one of my favorites, Sessions Moth Martina, Sumi Sakai, Slex, Silas Young, Shane Taylor, Tracy Williams. I mean, that's not nothing. You know, that's a pretty solid roster. And when you talk about those folks are going to be injected into free agency, and a lot of these guys, I mean, it's going to be great for them. Somebody like Dragon Lee, I mean, besides working dates for the Mexican Lucha Libre promotions, he'll probably land a lot of dates with Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. I think I saw that Bandito's already got dates with Game Changer Wrestling. Some of these guys will get drafted to AEW. They will get signed. A guy like Brody King, I think, ends up in AEW. But some of these guys, this is it for them. There is no like landing point for them. No disrespect intended, but world famous Cheeseburger isn't going to get a spot in the NWA. Not going to land on his feet with the WWE. You know, this is it. So, I mean, it is kind of a sad day when it comes to that, but it's also, we have to look at it as The business could only support itself for so long. Ring of Honor did the commendable thing by allowing its talents to still receive paychecks and continue to receive paychecks during this global pandemic. But, it's to their own detriment that it caused this whole thing to kind of fall apart.
And what makes this a really bad time, and I kind of like to get Kevin and Jaden's ideas on this, is this comes after they revamped NXT.
Yeah.
To where, before NXT would snap up a lot of these talents, but not right now. Or, they've rebranded. They basically have stated they're not interested in finding indie people, especially older indie people, and they want to build their people from the scratch, and they've got the Vince McMahon, Billy Corgan thing. They like big guys, well-built guys, and then we can even transition this in with talk about the NWA and who would bring in. Jay and I were talking. Jay was saying, somebody like Mike Bennett, or I can't remember who the other guy was off the top of my head.
Mike Bennett was the first guy I thought of. Brody King was the second guy I thought of.
You mentioned a third one because what I remember about him was maybe it was Grisham. I remember the two. What? EC3. And I pointed out the EC3 and now I forgot who I said. Bennett. EC3 and Bennett are both small guys, and I don't know, they're not in the typical Billy mold. And so I don't know how much interest the NWA would actually have in them. And so I don't know. I guess I'll start with Jaden. What are your thoughts on the fact that, there's fewer places because even NXT isn't snapping people up anymore, and not all these guys fit what is wanted out there right now.
It sucks for the wrestlers. It really, really does. Again, I know a lot of the wrestlers who work for Ring of Honor, very nice guys. Some of them are assholes, but most of them are really nice guys. And they deserve better. But again, I'm at the thing now where AEW is like the WWF of the 80s. They're picking talent out from everybody now. They're taking talent from the WWE. They're taking talent from Ring of Honor. Taking talent from Impact. That's the new territory system, I guess. And these territories just aren't able to survive now with that situation. As for the Friend WA, where only friends wrestle for Billy Corgan, they should really pick up a lot of this other talent because there's some big guys in Ring of Honor too. And honestly, EC3, he's no smaller than Eli Drake was. He's about the same size. But they can have some really good, talented wrestlers to get rid of some of these old dinosaurs and cast off some used-to-bes that they're using now. Maybe get some fresh talent, make the company seem exciting.
Yeah, I agree. I think EC3 is. I really feel like WWE kind of missed on him a little bit. To be honest, I felt like he's kind of a great fit for them, but my guess, I'm just going to guess this, that he might be a locker room issue more than anything. And again, that may not be something that shows itself in, maybe not shows itself in the literal locker room, but it might show itself in terms of how easy he is for promoters to work with. And so again, I think he's a top talent. I think he's great. I think he'd be a great pickup for anybody. And I feel the same way about Bennett. I think, again, both of these guys are like, prototypical type heavyweight wrestlers. I know they're not huge, but, there's a lot of guys right now having success in the NWA that aren't huge. La Rebellion, his first ones that come to mind, the Pope. The entertainment value is there, especially when you talk about EC3 cutting a promo. He's really good on the microphone. So, again, I think there's opportunity, but again, I think did somebody say the Friend WA? Is that what they said?
Yeah, I said the Friend WA. That's our new name. I just coined that. Make sure it's on a T-shirt, Jay.
Yeah, I think that's actually the what's gonna ultimately be the issue. Why? And like I go back to with the NWA, I mean, this is like Billy's like weekend plaything. It's not. That's why he doesn't want to spend too much money on it. And I think that ultimately he really doesn't care what anybody thinks, because if he did, the show would be different. But I would like to see some of this talent end up in the NWA, and I think some of it will. But I still think they're going to have their core group of wrestlers that they're going to continue to push, which some of them I really like. So I'm okay with that. But I would like to see an influx of some of this talent. But ultimately, like, I know it sucks. I know a lot of people are getting to live their dream right now, and that sort of thing. And this is probably the end of the road for them. But you know, that's also part of that's part of the deal, man. I mean, if you're a fringe talent and you really don't have what it takes to go past a certain level, you know, I can speak from this personally. You know, when you get to a certain point, that's as high as you're going to get. And you know what? Enjoy it. Enjoy what you had. Take the bookings while your name's still there. And I think the indies are going to survive, because I think that's actually one area that is not necessarily threatened as much by AEW. So again, I think that you know, I think this will actually ultimately work out for the indies, especially for the indies that are local to some of these guys that may actually reside in those areas. And I think the top guys will all end up at a bigger company. I think the mid to lower tier guys will just help bolster some of the independent rosters in that area, which is not a bad thing at all. I'm sure Jaden won't mind that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure Dr. Zirconium. I mean, he's already talked to a few of them. It's funny how when they were working for Ring of Honor and he contacted a couple of them, they weren't seeming very interested. But now, especially because there's an event coming up this Saturday, which is not tomorrow, there seems to be a lot of them seem to be texting Dr. Zirconium right now and looking for work. And there's some real talented guys out there. Another good one who I think should possibly be in the NWA because he had a cup of tea with him in the past, Rhett Titus, another really good high quality wrestler. And he can make it anywhere. But I know for a fact he's worked for Dog multiple times in the past. He'll probably be back there soon, and that makes Dog better. That makes all the indies around this area much better. And some of these guys come from other parts of the country. That'll make that part of the world better, or that part of the country better. It'll trickle down, and you'll see the big companies get better. It sucks immediately, but for the long run, it might be best for the business.
You know, at the end of the day.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to throw one quick thing. You're not going to get a whole lot of like cry 2 tears in the bucket from a guy who did most of his career with one major company out there that was really paying wrestlers, and now you've got 4 or 5. Yeah, you know what, guys? Like, you had it good. If you're complaining right now, then honestly, you have no perspective or no sense of history.
If I were the NWA, I look at some of the guys, especially if some of the rumors are true about them maybe looking at, you know, some stuff for some of the smaller gentlemen out there in the business. But I would probably look more at the women to kind of fill in. I mean, if you have Mickie James and they're putting together some women's shows and they're putting together some stuff, I mean, you know, we all know what's happened with Kylie Ray. She may not be cut out for the business. I've actually enjoyed her, but
what do you mean?
Kylie Ray's she's basically gone back on hiatus because of her anxieties and stuff like that. She's pulled off of shows and all that. So it's not the first time, you know, I don't remember who she left, actually. Maybe it was ROH or Impact under a similar thing not long ago. When she came back, she kind of came back to the NWA and some of the other independent promotions. And we said then that, you know, that might be better for her because it's not, you know, one of the advantages of only taping a few times over the course of several months might work for her better, but apparently it hasn't. And look, I'll put this out there. I suffer from anxiety. I take medication for my anxiety. And if, public service announcements, if you have issues like that, go see your doctor. That's exactly what I did. I went, my wife had actually set up an appointment for something else. And I went in, I said, yeah, I'm not really that worried about that, but let me tell you about some issues I've been having. And, we talked, and he started me on a low dose medication, and he asked me about 3 months later if I want to try and wean off of it or not. And I said, no, I love it. It makes me feel like me, and that's what I want to feel like. He said, then we'll keep you on it. So, do away with stigmatism, take care of your mental health as much as your physical health. So that's my public service announcement for this show. But that being said, I look at somebody like, Clint McKay, who, has just got that dorky adorableness and very green, but I think she could, kind of fit in some of that Kylie Ray mode, not necessarily as the wrestler, but as, just kind of that zany character. Mandy Leon, they had several people in their tournament that I think that, could fit. The NWA Mickey James wants to do a women's wrestling show. I think they can look at ROH talent. I don't think that's it's not Impact talent, but I think it's a good place to, look and sit there and go, hey, and bring back the free babes because everybody loved them and you guys were idiots for not booking them for more than a night. So that's my second public service announcement.
So tag me in. Let me chat you guys up on this. So a couple of things that I've been thinking about over the last few weeks, actually not last few weeks, last few days, because this was just announced, 2 days ago, a day ago. One point is, if you guys know your pal Jay, I'm a Dave Marquez guy, have been for quite some time. His post recently: to all friends and associates who were affected by the Ring of Honor decision today, please know that you're welcome anytime with me. I don't have Sinclair money, but I have plenty of work, so take care and keep in touch. I think that was great for two reasons, because one, I know for a fact, I know for secondhand, a guy like Mike Bennett was waiting for something to happen last year when he was released from the WWE. It was the money he made in wrestling last year came directly from his work with the United Wrestling Network, whether it be the Primetime Live episodes. I guess that's where he was featured predominantly. And since then, Mike Bennett, although contractually obligated to Ring of Honor up until recently, had made appearances for the United Wrestling Network in Championship Wrestling from Atlanta, as well as Primetime Live pay-per-view in the finals. The thing that's going on in the world of wrestling is, no, there's two really big wrestling promotions, maybe three if you count Impact in the United States. But there's also a bevy of indie promotions that are starting to grow. We're talking about promotions like Game Changer Wrestling. Despite what you think about that promotion as a whole, between the Big Gay Brunch with Effie, or the Joey Janela's Spring Break, or Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, these shows are starting to garner interest. And Game Changer Wrestling, with that feud with Nick Gage and Zack Ryder, really kind of brought some attention to that promotion. That promotion is now starting a Los Angeles affiliate, as well as they recently did their Bloodsport shows out here in Southern California. They're going to need bodies. And like I said, Bandito's already signed on for some of these matches. Besides Game Changer Wrestling, then there's New Japan Strong. New Japan Strong is using some of these guys like Brody King, Tyler Bateman, Chris Dickinson, Filthy Tom Lawler. These guys are now part of that New Japan Strong show. And those guys came from elsewhere. And those shows are happening more and more. They're not just doing one-offs here, one-offs there. They're literally touring. I'm going to be at a New Japan Strong show on November the 14th. November the 15th. And it just shows that these promotions are starting to come back up. And again, when you talk about the United Wrestling Network, they have 3 different areas that they're taping for. and then they technically do the weekly pay-per-views, or excuse me, the monthly pay-per-views with Fight TV, where they're bringing in talents from AEW, where they're bringing in talents from across the country, and then promotions like Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, who's always been kind of like a all-star home for good independent talent. Like now they have less ambiguities, less hurdles to jump over to bring in some of these talents who've been, working for Ring of Honor. So in some ways, this might be very, very good for independent wrestling. I don't remember who said it. It just might not be very good for the wrestlers themselves in the interim. But, being able to work more dates and knowing their own value and not working for handshakes and hot dogs certainly can put them in a position where they can be probably doing better business for themselves by working those independent dates. And Kevin, what do you think about that?
No, I agree. I think this is just the nature of business. I think if we just step out of the wrestling side of it and just thinking about business, I mean, businesses shut down and start up every day. Independent wrestlings is much more like your mom and pop business. And it's always nice to see, them benefit from, from situations like this. People always will land. The good ones will land somewhere, I've been talking about this for a while in terms of just AEW and the way that things have been kind of trending with them. And, you're going to hear a lot of 10, 15 years from now, you're going to hear a lot of people being like, we could have been AEW. That could have been us. Just like all the old territory wrestling guys say, oh yeah, well, we could have been WWE if we did this or that. And you're going to hear a lot of that. But what we're looking at is really and truly the effects of a once-in-a-lifetime event in terms of the pandemic. And really, like DK said, the after effects of that is one area. The other area is that Ring of Honor really hasn't been that great for a little while. They've been all right, but they haven't been that great. And I think they're also hurting a little bit, not from a couple of things. It's just it's a double thing. But here's the other thing, just throwing it out there. Ring of Honor is not shutting down.
No. And that's the thing.
They're not hanging it up. And I think in a way, they're doing this they're making this move so that the company itself can survive and maybe thrive in the future. And remember, we all know how Ring of Honor didn't start out giving wrestlers contracts. Ring of Honor started out with a very pure concept of just putting good wrestling together. And when you look at a place like Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, you see that same model there. And so again, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing because they're doing what they've got to do to survive. They're putting the brand first. And I think that's just the nature of the way things go. And I think I'd like to think that they'll land on their feet and this will actually work out best for them as well. So I think hopefully it works out great for everybody involved. There's always casualties in these situations, but we all know that if you're good and if you're determined, you'll land on your feet somewhere.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of the same people wrestling for Ring of Honor that are currently wrestling for Ring of Honor. Like Kevin said, he goes about the contracts. ROH started out with basically the champions had contracts, and the idea was don't go to a big promotion and leave me stranded for a champion.
Yeah.
And so that, I think when WWE started picking up so many indie people and stuff like that, then the counter is, oh, well, we'll offer you a contract. So don't go to WWE, don't go to TNA, we'll give you a contract and guarantee you money here. And
DK might have picked up on that. That's a good pickup there, DK.
So, and I'll let you expand on it, Jaden, because that's really all I had to say.
That is a good pickup because right now the WWNXT, they're not using a lot of these indie guys that are big that they were pushing. So maybe soon they're going to be released. Maybe that's the next cost-cutting measure that the WWE sells out to NBC or Fox or Disney or whatever they end up selling for. That brings a lot of extra wrestlers. AAW can't sign them all.
No.
Impact Wrestling can't sign them all.
Nope.
And now that the Ring of Honor's not even signing them, maybe they can start using some of those indie darlings that are coming back to the indies, start working for spot shows and TV tapings for the Ring of Honor. Maybe we'll start seeing some of those guys trickle back down and rebuild Ring of Honor up. I mean, Ring of Honor was best when it had a lot of great wrestlers that were from all different places, just kind of doing their thing. And we've seen actual drill dream matches. There's no real dream matches in Ring of Honor anymore because everybody's under contract and they've done it all. Now you might see matches that you weren't going to see before using wrestlers from the WWE, and maybe they'll let some of the AEW guys go. They get tired of not being featured and not putting on TV. Maybe some of the guys from Impact will, look to do something else. So that actually might be a good thing in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, like a guy like Brian Cage is not happy with where he is standing currently on the AEW roster. And could you imagine where, there might even be a bidding war when he gets out of his deal with AEW if that happens. But, guys,
I don't think you'll see Brian Cage in WWE, just to throw it out there.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Hey, we're up against it. We've got about 8 minutes to the hour. That would be 2 hours, which is too long for any podcast. So I think we're going to wrap it up here. But thank you for joining us for this conversation about Ring of Honor and some expectations that the Alliance guys have. And hopefully you guys have similar expectations, and maybe we'll see some interesting things come to fruition with all of this. Jaden, I know that your guy, Dr. Lawrence Zirconium, is putting this event on Saturday, October 30th in Glassboro. You want to throw out one more cheap plug before we go?
Yes, this Saturday night, which is still not tomorrow, at the Max Fit Sports Center, located at 240 Delsey Drive South in beautiful uptown Glassboro, New Jersey. Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators returns to the Max Fit to bring Glassboro's only wrestling promotion back to the glory days and South Jersey's #1 wrestling promotion, back to the gloriness of all old school professional wrestling, and you get to see it live. Only $15. The main event is Ray Jazz defending the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Heavyweight Championship against former champion Dirty Money. You got a sub-main event as the WWGP champion. Chris Steeler defends against the big bad kaiju himself, O'Shea Edwards. There's going to be 9 matches, which is a little long for a dog card, so hopefully it doesn't become a big marathon taping like MLW does. But you get to see that for $15. You could buy the entire chair, but you're only going to need the edge of the seat, that's for sure.
And Kevin, you used to work, or you have worked for Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. If folks want to follow you on the socials or see some of your old matches, how can they do that?
Yeah, you could actually see my dog match on YouTube if you were to Google Kevin Douglas versus Sebastian Cruz. There's also a heck of a promo that I did for them as well. My wife absolutely loves it. So yeah, you can definitely go onto YouTube and check out some of my matches if you wanted to just Google Kevin Douglas Wrestling, or you could go to my channel at Kevin Douglas 247. If you want to follow me on social media, it's Kevin Lee Frazier, just like on the screen, Lee. I'm not huge on social media these days. I mean, I do more retweeting per show than anything, but again, I do interact and I do respond to comments and messages. So would love to hear from some of you guys.
How about you, DK? How can they follow you on the socials?
Twitter at DKMFWTX. You can watch me retweet and occasionally talk about all combat sports, politics included.
That might be the biggest combat sport is politics. Of course, you can follow me at the Alliance blog on all social medias. We have hats like this for sale. We have, the phone just died. Camera just died. Awesome.
That's the best you've ever looked, Jay.
Fair enough.
Camera never dies on this show.
2 hours, guys. Come on, give me some credit. That was pretty good.
That
I
was
go
pretty
2
good.
hours
Well,
all the time, Jay. I don't know why you have a problem going 2 hours. I do it all the time.
It was perfect. Yeah, right. It was perfect timing, Jay, because it was just as you were plugging your stuff.
Yeah. Well, things happen, but that's why we have backups, and hopefully that works. You guys get to see the backside of the studio there. But anyways, so you can check out the alliance-wrestling.com t-shirts. We've got hats also available on our website. Just check out the merch section on the website. Of course, we're also doing a giveaway where you can win a crown version of the NWA World Championship, the title that was defended from 1959 to 1973. And that title will be given to one lucky subscriber once we hit 1,000 subscribers, and we're getting awfully close. We're at 768 at the time of this podcast. So make sure you guys get back into it. Oh, whoa. Did you steal that from NWA Gold?
Heck no. I have my sources.
All right. That's the belt you could win if you are so lucky. You could win that championship belt. And again, once we hit 1,000, that will be when we do the giveaway. We'll also give away some T-shirts, merchandise, and it's not just limited to North America. That contest is for worldwide. So again, you want to get in on that. And then I guess that's going to do it. You could join us again on Tuesday for the pre-party. We'll be back here Thursday nights. Until next time, guys. Did I miss something? No? Then we'll see you at the matches. Good night now.